copyright strikes, trademark acquisitions, mass recruitment, puzzle pieces. Bohemia are working on something big. It's all coming together, and it looks like the leaker from my previous Arma 4 video had some credibility after all. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Arma 3. I will fight to my last breath to argue that it's the best game I have ever owned, but it's time for a change. Whilst I've really been enjoying playing around with the new Creator DLC, which Savage Game Design have done a breathtakingly amazing job on, you get this sense from the Arma community, a kind of longingness for something different, something fresh, and no matter how many new DLCs you slap over the top of Arma 3, it's still Arma 3, with its bad performance, derpy AI, and muddy textures. Hopefully, this explains why I'm making so much speculative content about Arma 4, because I am itching to get my hands on something new. I came across a brilliant video by Sebsin, who has covered the latest saga in the Arma 4 information quest, which I'd definitely recommend checking out for yourself in the description. It relates to the puzzle pieces, or breadcrumbs as Seb calls it, left by Bohemia in various blog posts spanning back to February of this year. Like some sort of Pokemon game, you have to catch them all, and once you stitch the pieces together, you'll be rewarded with a total of 6 glimpses into Bohemia's new spangled Enfusion engine. Although I'm quite late to the party, to my surprise, very few, if any, YouTubers have sought to talk about these puzzle pieces. I think people don't realise how much of a big hint Bohemia are giving with these pictures, and there's so much to talk about, and best of all, they come from the horse's mouth. There's no uncertainty as to whether or not these images were pulled from some random gremlin in his mum's basement. So in this video, I will be diving into these puzzle pieces, pulling them apart once more, and giving you my thoughts on what all of this means for the next Arma title. You'll want to stick around for this one. And whilst we're looking through these, if you remember the engine interface from my Arma 4 leaks video previously, which I'm not going to repost here for obvious reasons, there are uncanny similarities with the engine user interface we're seeing here, as well as some of the terrain assets. It really does lend a great deal of credibility to what Bio was posting all along. Graphically, it doesn't look like a massive step up from Arma 3, although the volumetric fog in this one does look very nice. But none of us were really expecting that, to be honest. The 3 main tests that people will be looking for in the next Arma game are: do I need a NASA computer to run it? Are the AI still derpy as hell? And will it be accessible to modders? And when I look through these screenshots, they do sort of remind me of the colour palette and graphics in DayZ. And lo and behold, DayZ Standalone of course uses the Enfusion engine as its renderer. So the visuals in DayZ Standalone will strongly correlate with what the next Arma game looks like. But we already knew that really. Instead, look a little deeper. What part of the world does this look like to you? Something maybe reminiscent of a certain beloved predecessor, Chernarus, or even Livonia. But whichever one it might be, it is screaming East European. There are those Chernarus-esque Orthodox church spires, the big white ball thing from Starry Sobor, I have no idea what it is, and matching water fountains, and lampposts, as you can see here between the puzzle screenshots and screenshots of Livonia and Chernarus. Or even the bus stops are akin to Chernarus and Livonia. If we look back at the foggy shot here, or this building kind of reminds me of the supermarket in Chernarus. Now, these similarities are far too striking for it to be a mere coincidence. Look at the fencing, the muddy beaten down lanes, the agricultural farmland, the barns. Put it all together and we really do feel like we're at least somewhere in Eastern Europe. A guy on Reddit actually said, I live in the Czech Republic, and I could easily mistake this for a real image of some rural, backwater Moravian village. So I think it's clear from these screenshots that we are going to be transported to some Cherno-Russian or Livonian terrain in the next Arma game. But these shots of me flying around in DayZ offline mode on Livonia are perhaps the closest glimpse into Arma Reforger on the Enfusion engine. Bohemia, as we saw with their Arma 3 escapades when 2 of their developers were arrested for espionage in Greece. Fun times. Use real world data to create their terrains, So it's not surprising, given the global pandemic which has halted travel, and the fact that on the 22nd of June, it will be the 20th anniversary of Operation Flashpoint. Bohemia may well be cooking something up to take us back to its roots, where it all began. And this again lends credibility to Arma Reforger releasing this year. Mark the date in your diary, namely the 22nd of June 2021, and keep your eyes peeled on Bohemia's social medias, because I think a reveal is coming. Bohemia have released the constituent parts for 6 completed puzzles so far. No more, no less. 6. And what could the number 6 tell us? The 6th month of the year, June. I may be an Illuminati tinfoil hat weirdo, but we won't know whether I'm right or wrong until June rolls around. And also, Operation Reforger was an actual thing, standing for Return of Forces to Germany, all set out during the Cold War. The whole thing took place in Europe, led by NATO forces. It would also make sense for a return to the game's roots and to make use of a similar Cold War era to that in Operation Flashpoint. And with Arma 3's push to better single player storytelling with Laws of War, Contact and Old Man DLC, it would make sense for Bohemia to go in this direction. They could continue the events from where they left off, kind of like a film sequel. Or alternatively, they could remaster Operation Flashpoint's campaign. So if Arma Reforger really is a testbed, a sample to prepare us for Arma 4, then Bohemia are playing their cards close to their chest and utilising their strengths, Eastern Europe and a Cold War setting. Yes, it's been done to death with Arma 2, DayZ mod, the Arma 3 creator DLCs, and of course DayZ standalone, but it is a safe option for them whilst they're ditching their in-house engine tools. If I was a betting man, I'd say this is the biggest justification for opting for such an era and an Eastern Europe map. If I was out of my depth using an entirely new engine, which is nothing like the in-house RV engine I've been using for years, I'd want at least some familiarity. The terrain, assets and setting give them that comfort. They are, after all, based in Prague, in the Czech Republic. Now, this shot of a yellow car is almost 100% identical to the Sarka 120 in DayZ standalone. Look at these comparisons, it's really uncanny. Now, the Sarka in DayZ is based off of the facelifted Skoda 125 litre produced by, wait for it, the Czechoslovakian car manufacturer AZMP. Now, a guy on Reddit by the excellent name, I must add, of Buff These Nuts added that the number plate looked like it was from the Czech Republic in the 1990s. The Cold War lasted from roughly 1947 to 1991. Now, all of this really seems to go together, but remember, this is purely speculation until we actually hear from Bohemia themselves. Other members of the community have even suggested that some of the weapons, vehicles and assets from DayZ standalone could actually be ported across into the new Arma Reforger game. Now, this seems to be reinforced by this picture of the back of an M3S, or an Arma 2 Ural as you might know it. And I mean, look at this apple tree. No, come on, really. Whilst I'm personally a bit unhappy with such a lackluster copy and paste job, if it helps us to get closer to Arma 4 in the end, so be it. It just feels a bit sad that we saw so many new assets between Arma 2 and Arma 3. We travelled from Chernobyl, a sort of cold Eastern European setting, to a sunny Stratis set in Greece on a beautiful Mediterranean island. If this is it, then it's truthfully a little bit underwhelming. One thing that is a positive though is building interiors. It looks as though we're going to have fully enterable buildings akin to Arma 3's Stratis and Altis, where you can see the cupboards inside this house here. So there is some hope of interiors actually being furnished, unlike the barren ones we have in Stratis and Altis. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're getting new water physics or rivers. It still has that dead, lifeless, static look we're used to on DayZ and Arma. Finally, in terms of Bohemia's response, they have recently filed for intellectual property rights for the name Arma Reforger, which is spicy in itself, and something unknown called Silica. Now, this is very big news indeed, and it again gives us more weight to what the leaker in my last Arma 4 video was telling us all along. Furthermore, all of the leaker's picture posts have been copyright striked on Twitter. Now, some of you commented on my previous Arma 4 video that this Twitter account was a controlled leak by Bohemia themselves to drum up hype for the next Arma game. But why would they strike down their own pictures on a private Twitter account? It doesn't add up. All for the sake of a bit of publicity. I don't think they would bother going to such lengths. My only question though is if Bohemia planned to name their next Arma title Arma Reforger, why did they only file for IP rights in May of this year? Surely they've been working on it for longer than that. Again, there are yet more unanswered questions. When will the hunt end? I hope you guys enjoyed watching and that this video gave you some food for thought about the next Arma game. We might very well be in for an announcement soon. Have a great rest of the week, guys. Tommy out.